So we're going to try to figure out some good landmarks here to add these lines under the index finger. So I'm going to tap the Z key. That's going to work beautifully. I'm going to flip the ref. We'll go ahead and zoom in. Tap Z to position the spotlight here. So I'm going to use the move brush here. We'll drop it down a couple subdivisions. I really want to get that bend because I think that bend, well, let me just go ahead and, so I want to match the negative space here a little bit. Now, obviously it's not going to be perfect, but so that bend there is indicative of the amount of pressure that is being applied to the finger. I think I'm going to actually drop this down even further. And the way I want to do it is I'm going to scoot the middle part out a little bit. Mask it off. Be careful I didn't actually grab some of that middle finger there. We'll invert it. And tap the Y key to activate the transpose tool. And I want to pivot the finger from basically where that knuckle is. Because I like what's going on with how it's oriented on the top. But I want to use R, and then, so I'm going to give a little bit of a barrel roll out. And then I'm going to use W to scoot it in. And you can see here, looking at this, I turn perspective off especially, I could turn on my little thing here, my little plane, which I will be paying attention to somewhat soon. But you can also just kind of drag it down to that line there and kind of get a sense. So it looks like at this point, it's probably a little bit too low. So I don't have to redraw it. I can just click on this X here and it'll redraw that line out horizontally. So I'm just going to go to rotate, and then we'll just, whoops, I need to mask off that finger again. Make sure I do this correctly. Invert, blur, invert, blur. I definitely don't want to get too much of this index finger in there though, so I'm going to go ahead and just toggle you off. So I've got perspective turned off now, just temporarily. And we'll go ahead and rotate the finger. So we're a little bit closer. I wonder what's going with the thumb. I haven't spent too much time thinking about the thumb. That's not going to be the case here for too much longer. But I kind of want to just get all the fingers up to the same level before I jump over to the thumb. So we're going to have a line here, which is going to be this guy. And the line is sort of defined, it's not necessarily just, you know, that stroke right there. You can also get the line by just sort of mounting stuff up together. And I don't have my side view, so I don't want to go too crazy with what that looks like just quite yet. Again, this is primarily about the index finger. So back to damn standard. And it looks like, so if I look at these two lines, they're kind of parallel to each other. And in fact, the pinky, well, I guess this is the first little bend there, so it's not really one. But anyway, these two here are definitely parallel. And this one seems to, if you just kind of continue over, hit right in the middle. So with the lighting here, obviously it's going to look a little bit different, but I think that means my line is going to go over here somewhere, and then my next line is going to be over here somewhere. And when you look at it from the bottom view, you know, things line up pretty nicely. And generally speaking, the location of the knuckle is indicative of where the fold underneath it will go. So I might actually just kind of scoot that down a little bit further. I'm going to hop up to my, actually I guess I am at my highest subdivision level, yeah. So I'm going to add a little bit of volume here. Maybe remove a little bit there. Turn perspective back on. All right, I'm going to isolate the finger, that index finger there. And if you want to hide stuff, it's just Control and Shift and then the Alt button, and you'll get the red option. And if you hold the space bar, you can move it around to get exactly what it is that you're trying to isolate. So I'm going to tap the Z key. Go ahead and flip the ref so I can see what's going on here. Tap the Z key one more time. I'm going to click on the mesh over here so that that becomes a new pivot. And it looks like I might have added too much here. Whoops, let me go back to clay tubes. And the two options are, so I just don't see as much of a transition as I have here. So it's conceivable that I'd need to bring this down to soften it or this up. And I'm thinking it's probably mostly this, but I'll bring the base of the index finger here down too. Maybe I'll just use the move brush on that a little bit. And the reason I thought it was lower is because I was kind of seeing what was going on from this view. So this is definitely going to be more authoritative on what that area looks like than the shot from the back of the hand. And I definitely have a little tiny divot there, but I think in the finger it's a little bit overpronounced. So I'm just going to kind of fill it in a little bit. Still kind of want it there, just not quite that heavy-handed. No pun intended. Let's grab the flatten 404. Come in and kind of clean things up a little bit, see where we're at. Alright, I'm going to use the move brush here just to add a little bit of roundness to that section. Try to keep it consistent. Uh-oh. So, little issue here where I made some change to the area that was hidden. So in this case, you can, I mean, that's like a, sure, go ahead and maybe transition, like soften it up a little bit with the smooth brush, and then hop back in and just kind of clean it up with the flat 404. So there you go, that might be one of the few scenarios where it's cool to use the smooth brush. And I have this like weird shelf here that is probably not accurate. So anyway, there's a few things that we will continue to adjust in the next video, probably the pinky, and maybe we'll get going on the thumb.